The storytelling possibilities granted by the setting of Dune Prophecy are quite intriguing because either way, I feel like we're going to get this universe more fleshed out in other elements that we haven't seen in the recent 2-film adaptation. Hopefully there's a lot of world building when it comes to anything having to do with the Kwisatz Haderach, the breeding program, the Mentats, possibly Bene Tleilax. The possibilities for this, I'm actually really intrigued by because I think it's kind of interesting where they decided to set the show. Originally, I was against it because I didn't know much about it. Well, initially, they said it was based off of Frank Herbert's universe. That was the initial tagline when they announced the show. And later, they said it was going to be based off of Brian Herbert's Sisterhood of Dune novel. And I wasn't uber jazzed about just that specifically. But when they revealed that it was kind of going to be a mix of all of those things, that they're going to try to live up to the spirit of Frank Herbert's universe, its institutions, and the lore surrounding that, being faithful to that. So having the background and characters of the Sisterhood of Dune novel, the expanded universe, but also like moving forward in an original storyline. So 30 years past the Dune book, which I think is primarily where the show is going to be set, is going to be this new storyline, a sort of new expanded universe. So I wonder just how that will work. I am intrigued by that idea. Will it work? I don't know. I do think that a lot of fans, I don't think they're really tied to Brian Herbert's book to the extent that they hope that they are really faithful in adapting that source material. I think they're okay, especially given that basis of the source material with the Sisterhood of Dune novel, which a lot view as fan fiction. I think they're more okay with creative liberties being taken with that source material. And it looks like that's the direction they're kind of going. They're taking a creative liberty with the background of the Brian Herbert, Kevin J. Anderson novel, Sisterhood of Dune novel, to create something new. And I'm not entirely against that idea. I think the prospect and idea is interesting for new writers to come in and try to tell new stories within Frank Herbert's universe. Because we've just had Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson at the helm producing these stories. I think it'd be kind of interesting. I think some fans would like other creators and writers to have a share or to have a shot at writing stories within this unique, complex universe. So we'll see if they can handle that responsibility. I think for it to succeed, it has to adhere to the lore elements that Frank Herbert did establish for this time period. I think it has to remain faithful to that, maintain a sincere attempt at being faithful to Frank Herbert's lore. And of course, yeah, he left a lot of room for liberty, but I think if you do stick with what he did establish, what he did write, while creating a new story within this universe, I think you could succeed if you adhere to that same spirit of the universe he created. I'm cautiously optimistic. Before I was just cautious, I would say, but with this newest trailer and seeing more of this show, seeing more of what the story kind of is, I hope it's good. Because it'd be nice for us to get more stories within this universe. We're in an era of like prequel shows that are attached to beloved IPs, and more often than not, they're not succeeding in really important ways. So far, this looks like it's competently made. It looks good because there's a lot of production issues, a lot. So I'm actually surprised that it kind of looks as good as it does. But again, we're going to have to wait and see what the actual story is, what the characters' journeys are. And at the end of the day, I just hope it's a good addition to the universe and lives up to Frank Herbert's legacy. That's another thing with these kinds of ensemble shows. It's definitely going to be a balance, trying to balance all these different stories in a way that doesn't feel jarring when we jump around. So I'm curious to see how they're going to handle this, as well as the multiple timelines. And I feel like they have a lot to juggle. And maybe that's why they went primarily, or trying to go to, an original storyline with the background of the Sisterhood of Dune novel. I think they want to try to do their best to live up to the spirit of the universe and structure that Frank Herbert established, but kind of chart a new story moving forward. Maybe that's how it was just easier for them to reconcile all these different things and stories and characters. It's, I would say, a bigger undertaking than the Dune films, actually. Because with the story of Dune, you have a very well-established, iconic story right there in the book. So this is trying to expand on that. I'm very curious to see how they're gonna treat the lore, treat these new characters, the storylines, and ultimately I hope that it honors Frank Herbert's themes and his universe that he created. And so far, what I do see of the Imperial intrigue with the Emperor and the Bene Gesserit, I mean, that's how the Bene Gesserit operates. The comments that I hear about it from the showrunner, the Sisterhood certainly has a prominent public place, and they have these jobs as truthsayers. They're in the halls of power. They're teaching girls and insinuating themselves into noble families, but they're also pulling strings behind the scenes. That certainly speaks to every time period and highlights some questions we all could be asking of power at any given moment, including today. In the films, they're very much in their full power and they're making their moves, but they're cloaked in a kind of mystique. One of the great things about this series is we certainly don't want to take away their mystique, but we do go behind their closed doors and kind of see how they operate. I can appreciate that, not wanting to dive too much into the nitty-gritty details of trying to explain every little thing. I like that approach. That's why I like Frank Herbert's stories. It's because there's some mystery in there, that not everything is explained in painstaking detail. I think that mystery actually adds to the storytelling. It allows your imagination to go wild. Shatner goes on to say that the film set such a high bar, and I think really unlocked Dune for many people and just invigorated the entire, I don't even want to call it a franchise, and we definitely felt like we wanted to just strive in every way to be worthy of holding down a different corner of the Dune universe, so that fans who engage with the films and love the films would feel that they were seeing a different part of the story that could also speak to the films. So we love what Denis did, and we tried very hard to do our best and live up to what he claimed. Hopefully it leads to more Dune TV shows. I would like us to move forward, because Denis Villeneuve recently spoke that after Dune Messiah, he's done. He thinks that for him, that completes the arc. That completes Paul Atreides' arc, but there's definitely so much more. So if this show does well, my hope is that more shows get produced that will continue Frank Herbert's stories, and especially, in the wake of Dune and Dune Messiah. Hopefully someone will pick up that and produce a Children of Dune series. We'll see if God Emperor happens. I don't know, I'm less optimistic about that, but it'd be cool. But ultimately, first things first, they have to be sure to tell a good, compelling story in this series. Otherwise, they'll kill a lot of the intrigue that is out there and turn it into apathy. We've seen the same kind of thing play out time and time again with many of these IPs, where people just lose interest in a larger fictional universe because what's being produced is subpar. And so for this new and really first on-screen addition to Frank Herbert's Duniverse, it's crucial that they make something enjoyable. After all, the beginning is the time for taking the most delicate care that the balances are correct. This, every sister of the Bene Gesserit knows. But I'm curious to know what you think of Dune Prophecy. Do you feel that the setting of this series provides a good opportunity for new stories to be told within the world and framework of what Frank Herbert created? Are there any points of optimism or concern from what you've seen of the show so far that stand out to you? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did, and be sure to subscribe for more Dune and other sci-fi and fantasy news and lore. And if you're looking for other ways to show your appreciation, you can check out my Patreon page, where members get access to exclusive content and perks. Thank you all so much for your support, and as always, have a very nerdy day.